Brian DePalma, the director of Bonfire of the Vanities, I wonder if I should describe you as the person sort of stoking the flames of this bonfire. As a director, do you sometimes feel like you're building a blaze of some
We
sort?
tried to build a bonfire that was very hot and high.
And a bonfire has combustible elements, and I guess the contrasts of haves and have-nots and Wall Street and Bronx, that the kind of contrast a director hungers for?
Well, it's very dramatic, and you can bring characters like that in conflict within a satiric drama, sparks fly.
Does it give you a chance, too, for lots of powerful editing procedures? You could bounce things against each other through the editing, those kinds of contrasts. Do you look to that at the beginning? You know, that's a possibility.
Well, but it all has to do with how you structure the material, and you want to first present the world of Sherman McCoy, and then get everybody sort of comfortable in it, and then you want to sort of pull the trap door and let them fall into that other world.
And you don't spare anybody, and neither did Tom Wolfe. Is that another attraction? Nobody gets off scot-free in this thing.
No, I think it's important that, you know, everybody's, you know, throwing stuff in the bonfire as it builds higher and higher, and nobody could care less of what happens to Sherman McCoy or Henry Lamb.
I wonder if it's facetious of me to wonder if, as a blaze burns brightly, you have a very intense light. And the whole picture has a kind of an overheated, very clear, lighted look. That's not accidental?
No, no, it's very much our intention to give it a kind of hyper-real look, kind of like Architectural Digest gone psychedelic.
This is not an easy thing to do. I know we don't have a lot of time, but could you share with us a technical secret or two about how you achieve a look like that with Mr. Zsigmond?
Well, you basically sit down and look at a lot of pictures and say, I think the movie should look like this. And Dick Silbert and Vilmos and I got together, and we basically looked at a whole bunch of pictures of interiors and exteriors of New York, and came up we came up with a kind of visual style that we all agreed on.
And rarely have I seen such extreme wide-angle lenses employed so consistently. So obviously, again, not an accident.
No, that was an intention from the beginning to give everything a larger-than-life look. If you look at those, ever noticed if you shop for an apartment and how they show you photographs of it, and it seems immense, then you get there and you know, get caught in the hallway because they're using those wide-angle lenses.
Are you suggesting your visual strategy has already been anticipated by the realtors?
No, it's been used for years.
Could we go back a few years to my own discoveries of your work with things like Get to Know Your Rabbit and Greetings? It's the Brian DePalma of those pictures, which appealed very much to, I think, a kind of countercultural audience in the 60s. Has that audience and that director changed appreciably over the years?
Boy, that's hard to tell. You're kind of not the best judge of how your work has evolved. Hopefully it matures and you deal with more pertinent issues, whether they be ethical or moral or dramatic or emotional.
You don't think things have softened at all, though, do you?
Not judging by this movie.
In other words, are you here to assure us that the kind of satiric thrusts that we saw on those early things, that this is still a sensibility that stayed with you?
I think they're very similar to those early things, like Greetings and Hi Mom, the same satiric thrusts.
But how do you keep those fires burning? I mean, how do you keep them from getting banked? That kind of anger.
Well, the society really hasn't changed that much, so I guess the sort of vision of it as a kind of comedic horror show is something that will always work effectively in the cinema.
You're one of the few directors who does manage to maintain a visual style, picture to picture. Has that been a tough haul to keep that kind of control over top cameramen like you work with?
Not really, because mostly there's a complete absence of visual style in movies, so cameramen are very happy to get behind somebody that seems to have something other in mind than a sort of a two-shot or an over-the-shoulder.
Do you regard that kind of anonymous look that so many films have as with a sort of regret? Do you wish other people were out there jostling?
Well, I think it's a combination of a generation that's been brought up on television, basically, and everything's sort of solved in conversation, so people just sit and talk, or it's like MTV, they're like, you know, two-frame cuts, neither of which trains you to be able to make movies that have kind of traditional story forms.
Finally, when people emerge from the blaze at the end of Bonfire, what do you hope has not entertained them so much, but maybe is going to nag at them and going to bother them a little
Well,
bit?
it's just the world we live in.
Which says it all, I guess.
Right.
Currently ablaze.
Thank
And
you.
the man responsible for that bonfire, as much as Tom Wolfe, of course, is director Brian DePalma. We are in Hollywood talking about Bonfire of the Vanities. I'm John Tibbetts for KCTV5.